Or let's speak to our reporter, James Creedon, at a polling station in the 17th arrondissement of the capital. Hello to you, James. It needs to be repeated. French law does not allow us to speak about the opinion polls or the candidates' platforms, but we did get some recent turnout figures. Tell us more.
That's right. French media, of course, limited in terms of what we can say today, Will, so that anything that would be broadcast by media wouldn't impact on voting as it is taking place. But we do have the latest numbers that have come in from the Interior Ministry about participation rates. And at midday, it's at 25.48%, 25.5%. That's 3 points down from 2017, which was seen as a stable figure at that time compared to previous votes. So 2017, you had about 28.5% of voters had turned out at this stage. Now, what can you say from that? I mean, analysts will have their little, I suppose, spin on it. The weather is good. It's a little bit chilly, but it's very sunny here in Paris today. So if it was bad weather, you might say, well, that's one of the factors. People might wait for a little bit later on in the day. They might put on their clothes for weather-appropriate clothes and venture out later. So weather probably not a factor in terms of indicating why voter turnout is that little bit lower. Now, we'll have to see what happens as the day goes on in terms of the overall voter abstention rates. Some pollsters saying that they could be as high as 28% this year. So there was a sort of an anticipation that voter turnout might be lower than usual. 28% would be a 20-year high, actually. That's the number that we had back in 2002. So is there a degree of voter fatigue? Is there a degree of, I suppose, upset over recent events that affected society so massively, such as COVID-19? More recently, the war in Ukraine. How will that impact on the vote today is anyone's guess. We also there are new candidates in the field compared to 5 years ago. Will that change how voters cast their ballot? It's a possibility as well. So there's not a huge amount we can say. We have those restrictions in place. What I can tell you is that there are long lines here at this particular voting station at Rue Brochon in the 17th arrondissement. It's one of the 65 or so voting stations. There's actually two side by side, so two of the voting stations in this arrondissement, and lots of people turning out. Now, in terms of people staying away from the polls, the age group that is thought to have been, where it's thought to have the lowest number of votes is 35 to 49. I'm seeing a lot of people in that age category here, young families and people in that age category. So, perhaps they're overrepresented represented demographically in this particular neighbourhood. A lot of families living around here. It's just pure speculation at this stage. We'll have to see what the numbers, with the crunching of the numbers later on in the day. Polls closing at 8 p.m. and counting will go on until around 11 p.m. here.
Yeah, James, as you're saying, we see those long lines behind you, but turnout down so far, at least with midday compared to 5 years ago. Tell us a bit more about France's voting system. For foreigners, it can be quite complex, and it could leave some surprises ahead, couldn't it?
That's right. So there's 12 candidates in this first round, and the top two will go through for a runoff on the 24th of April, 2 weeks from now. So I suppose the big question is, who will those two top candidates be? Might there be a surprise? We don't know, and we can't really say much more on it for now. So that's the big question. Who are the top two going to be today? And the voting system is very meticulously and minutely kind of organised here in the two polling stations behind me. You've got four polling booths per station. People go in, they show their voter participation card and their ID. Then they go in and they select one of the 12 candidates to put in an envelope, and that's done behind the curtain, and then the vote is cast. There is one other factor that's kind of going to be interesting to observe, and that is what they call the vote blanc, or the sort of spoiled ballot. And that is really often, and it's not when somebody kind of gets it wrong or puts two names in the envelope accidentally or something like that. This is really a kind of a protest vote, and it can indicate that people are upset really by the body politic as a whole, or don't feel that any of the 12 candidates represent what they kind of believe in politically. So that's another factor that could impact on the outcome of this election, spoiled votes. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It is a lovely day here, and long lines still forming. So certainly, even if those numbers appear to be down, 3% down compared to last year, we're not seeing signs of that here at this particular polling station on the Rue Brochon.